Hi, and welcome to Mikey's Moments, a life adventure. I'm Mikey again. This is episode 5. This week we're going to be talking about sports. The reason we're going to be talking about sports will be pretty evident. Well, it's pretty easy. Next Sunday is the Super Bowl, the best holiday next to the 4th of July. That's right, I call it a holiday. For me, it is. It's a spectacle. Everybody likes to get together. There's parties, there's bars, there's food. Sounds like a holiday to me. So, the NFL has got, as usual this year, a lot of controversy. And as usual, a lot of times it stems from the refereeing. And we'll get onto that. And I'm not just going to complain about it, I'm going to offer up some solutions, in my opinion, that could help. I'm also going to talk about why I think the NFL should not be named the NFL for National Football League anymore, but the NFL for needs full leadership. You see, the NFL I grew up in was first you had Pete Rosella, who then passed it on to Paul Tagliabue, who now passed it on to Roger Goodell. When the first two names I mentioned finished their tenureship as commissioner in the National Football League, the machine was a machine. I call it a machine, but it was primed, oiled, and running perfectly, in my opinion. All Roger Goodell needed to do was keep his foot on the gas pedal, and the owners would have been happy. But he mucked it up. He messed it up bad. And that's my opinion, and I've got some examples which I'll get to later. And like I said, I'm going to offer up some solutions. And I don't know if everybody will agree with them. I don't know if anybody will agree with them, but they are very well felt as a fan, not just as the Steelers, but of this football. So let's start with, as usual, referee controversies. Now, the bigger controversy from last weekend was the Kansas City game and the Cincinnati Bengal game, where the Chiefs got what looked like a free play or a do-over play because you couldn't hear the whistle. Now, that would have been easy since the play went off and they didn't stop it because no one could hear the whistle, and it was all due to the clock anyway. They could have adjusted the clock and said, all right, that play happened. It took this many seconds. We're going to adjust the official clock down, match them back up, let the punt go on like it was supposed to go on, move on, and that would have been easy. That would have been the common sense, quick thing to do. But in Roger Goodell's NFL, heck, common sense doesn't play a part very often. So again, we'll get onto this, but here is my solution to the refereeing problem. The refereeing problem is several layers. The first layer is the average age of a National Football League referee is 51. The average age of an NFL player is 26. That's 25 years age difference. Now, I'm sorry, I'm almost 53, and I'm not in as good shape as these referees are. And don't get me wrong, for guys my age, they're in pretty good shape, but they're not keeping up with these elite athletes that are playing the National Football League. They just can't keep up. And yes, I know they try to put themselves in positions where they can get there before the play, but sometimes the play is such a boom, bing, bang, and it's so fast and so quick it's there that they're behind the play. They can't see what's going on, so they make judgment calls and you see it in the replays, and then you can't replay it because it's a non-reviewable play, and it just mars the controversy. So the solution is they can't be part-time referees, and they can't be older referees, but they can in a way. You take that brain trust, these guys that have been referees, that know the game, know the rules, but they only do it part-time. You make them full-time. You train them 365 days a year, just like you do these elite football players. You put them in film rooms so that they know the two teams are playing's offensive and defensive tendencies. So they can put themselves in a better position because they're trying to do that anyway. But you don't put them on the field. You put them up in the booth. Who do you put on the field? You take these young college kids. Not all of them are going to make the National Football League. They want to, but they're not going to. They just don't have that piece, that little sliver. But they love the game. They know the rules. You just need to fine tune those rules in their head. So you take that brain trust you already have. You have them teach the younger guys who now are capable of keeping up with the play, who through this brain trust know the positioning, but like I said, are fast enough, strong enough, keep up with the play. Like you hear the announcer say when you're watching the game, holding is on every play. It's up to the defender to turn himself so that the referee can see it. Well, if there's holding on every play, then they're going to have to call it on every play until the offense learns to change their technique. It's funny, in Roger Goodell's NFL, it's the defense that always has to change their technique. And it's just not holding. We've got controversies about catching still. We've got controversies about what's pass interference and what's not. We have all these different controversies, which could be avoided by putting the brain trust up top, watching videos along with what's on the field. Flag is thrown, bang, on the field, goes up to the brain trust right away. They look and go, okay, well, he called holding. Boom, it is. He was in perfect position for it. That is holding, bang. Instantaneous. And then here's the other thing, help with the catching and pass interference and all those kind of rules. Put a grid on the field. Lightly irradiate the ball with a non-toxic radiation. They do it all the time. You'd know exactly where that ball was at all the time. You would know where the player was because you could put the same stuff in their cleats. So you would know where his feet are. You know, they want to use technology, but they're using the wrong technology in my opinion. Instant replay works, but it works too slow. But if you have a brain trust going on, so now you got these young college kids on the field who are part of the game they love, who are still there around it, but now they've got an even greater responsibility. They're making the game they love quicker, cleaner, faster, more enjoyable. So that is my solution to the refereeing problem, is take the right technology and integrate it. Take your brain trust, put it someplace else. Take your athletes that aren't going to play in the NFL, put them on the field with these athletes so you can keep it up and moving. You know, it seems like it couldn't be done, but it could. But the big thing is the leadership. Roger Goodell has to make these referees full-time. He has to train them full-time. He has to pay them like they're full-time. They need to have training seminars. They need to be on the same page. The rule book needs to be slimmed down, not constantly changed and enhanced. Pass interference, you can't touch somebody after 5 yards. But sometimes they can. They're grabbing a hold of them. They're turning them this, they're that. They're letting them play. You have to be consistent. You have to say, you know what? This is pass interference. You've got to call it. If you don't, you're gone. It's that simple. If you're working in a job that's not a refereeing industry, and you keep building the same bad part over and over, and they showing you what the good part looks like, you're gone. It's that simple. You're out. It's done. It's over. You see, another controversy that gets called a lot, and I should have touched on this earlier, but you know, I get on my rolls. You know, if you watch my podcast or watch my YouTube channel or listen to my podcast, I get a little rambly at times. I'll try not to, but going back to controversies. Earlier in the championship game, I talked about the free play the Chiefs got, but how about the penalty that wasn't called in the Eagles game? When Josh Johnson, the fourth string quarterback for the 49ers, got knocked out, and Ndamukong Suh's hand hit his face mask. That should have been a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty. But no. Why? Because his name wasn't Manning or Brady or Rodgers. That's the inconsistency. Some of these better quarterbacks get the calls that the other quarterbacks don't. And if a quarterback has a tendency to run, like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, they're not going to get that call either because they're a mobile quarterback. They don't get the same protection. So you got to remember that the rules should apply all the time. He touched that mask, that penalty flag should have came out. And that's where my plan. So on the field, the kid wasn't in the position to see it, but up on the booth they were, so the brain trust goes, hey, you should have thrown the flag here. This is what you didn't see. Boom, bang, bang, done, over. And herein lies the problem. Roger Goodell. Ever since Roger Goodell took over the National Football League, he looks at it as a product. Now, he says it's all about the players, player protection. We got to take care of the players. I've changed the rules to make defense so hard to play because I'm trying to protect these players. No, you changed the rules because you want fast-paced, high-scoring football games. You want a NASCAR game, I guess, or a basketball game. But not all your fans want that. I have said this before to many people. I've watched football my entire life. I love football. I've watched some of the greatest running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks in history. I've been fortunate enough to do that. I've studied the game. I've gone back and watched videos of Otto Graham and all these guys too. It's not just the guys from the modern era. Football is an amazing game. But you watch somebody bust a 75-yard run, crowd gets excited. 60-yard bomb, crowd gets excited. Hail Mary, crowd gets excited. You have a linebacker coming across the middle and lays out a receiver, crowd doesn't get excited. It gets that momentary take your breath away moment. And that is what makes the NFL such a good game. There's no other sports where you really get that moment. Sometimes you get a little bit in hockey, but I'm telling you what, when a defender changes the game because he put his will through sheer violence on someone else, now that's football. And Roger Goodell has taken that away from us. Roger Goodell says that he wants player safety. If he wanted player safety, there wouldn't have been an extra game added to the schedule. He wants profit. In my opinion, when Roger Goodell looks at Patrick Mahomes, and Roger Goodell looks at J.J. Watt, when Roger Goodell looks at any player on the field, he sees a can of Coke. He sees a bag of Fritos. He sees a product that he is selling for these owners to make profit. Now, don't get me wrong. They're in a business, and they should make profit. And they make profit because we enjoy the game. But here are some of the things Roger Goodell has done that has ruined the game, in my opinion. He's made it almost impossible to play defense. You can't hit a quarterback below his knees or above his shoulders because, well, you could hurt him. Well, guess what? You're not trying to hurt him. You're just trying to hit him. That's what football's about. And because of it, you've bred what I call diva quarterbacks. You've got these guys who are quarterbacks, not football players. And that's the problem is you need to be a football player who plays the quarterback position. Some of my favorite players are football players who play a position. Hines Ward. I love Hines Ward to death. Don't know why he's in the Hall of Fame. It's an absolute shame. But Hines Ward was a football player who happened to play wide receiver. And you can get the same thing on defense. Ray Lewis, he was a football player who happened to play linebacker. And that's just it. You have these rules about defenseless players. And I'm going to use my Steelers as an example. James Harrison won the Defensive Player of the Year. 3 years later, he was fined money for the exact same type of hit he put on someone. Why? Because Roger Goodell changed the rules. James Harrison didn't change his game. James Harrison didn't change the rules. You changed the rules around him. You said the hit he put on someone was unnecessary. But it was the exact same hit that he made when you glorified him and gave him a trophy. Now, why did the hit cause an injury? It's because the receiver wasn't defenseless. The receiver saw James Harrison coming to tackle. He defended himself by turning himself into a ball, lowering his head. So now that James Harrison, whose shoulder was targeted at his chest, hits his head. So if we're going to throw a flag on that, that's ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want these players to get hurt. I don't want these players to die. I don't want these players to be injured. But if you've ever played football, starting in the little tiny mini-mite leagues and everything, they have a helmet. And on that helmet, they have a warning. It tells you not to use the helmet as a weapon, not to lead with it. If you're coached properly, you're taught how to tackle without using the helmet. And guess what? It says right on there. They're telling these 7, 8, 9-year-olds who are playing football for the first time, this game can injure you. This game can cripple you. And if done wrong, this game can kill you. A lot of pressure to put on a 9-year-old kid. But they do it. And then these gentlemen that really excel at it, they play it through middle school, high school, college, and then they get to make a living doing it. And Mr. Goodell, I believe you've made it making a living for some of these guys a lot harder. So you want to get rid of the controversy in the NFL? Go back to playing football. Now, some people aren't going to agree with me. They're going to be like, well, this is ridiculous. Well, no, it's not ridiculous. It's the game. The game is about controlled violence between whistles. And when those whistles are mucking the game up because of inconsistency, it's time you need to change some of the whistles. When the guy who's in charge of hiring those whistles won't do it full time, it's time to get rid of that guy. Especially when that guy has taken a game and he's, for lack of a word in my opinion, made it too offensive. I mean, offense is fun to watch, yeah, I guess. Except for if you grew up loving defense. What about the fans out there that want to see the hits? The fans that out there is like, hey, guess what? Mel Blount changed the rules of the game because he used to manhandle receivers past 5 yards and wouldn't let them get open. So you changed the rules and saying after 5 yards you can't touch the receivers. Well, guess what? Mel Blount was even better when you did that. Defense can change with the rules as long as those rules are equal and balanced. I don't think they're balanced anymore. So next week when we're watching the Super Bowl, think about that. Think about if there's a catch and we're not sure if his feet are in bounds. There was a grid on the field so we could see where his feet were. And these guys are all wearing gloves. Maybe we put the same type of sensors in their gloves so we know exactly when they have hold of the ball. Use technology the right way, Mr. Goodell. Teach your referees the right way. Embrace the product that you so much want to protect. And remember that these men are that. They're men playing a game. Fast, strong game that I don't think you've ever played. And if you did, it was probably with flags. And you know what? That's not real football. That's fun football, but that's not real football. Real football is 11 on 11, men padding up, and guess what? Being violent between the whistles. Well, that's my moment. That's this week's podcast. Hope you enjoy it. There's a link. Come to my YouTube channel. It's Zod1703 at YouTube. I've got a Twitter page out there too. I've got an Instagram. I got a link in all those places. So come join me if you like this. Follow. And if you don't agree with me, make some comments. Maybe we can have a discussion. Take care. And happy Super Bowl Sunday. May the odds always be in your favor.